All right, today we're cracking open the playbook of the emotional predator. But look, this isn't about creating fear. This is all about empowerment. We're going to demystify psychological manipulation and turn their tactics into your survival guide. So let's get into it. So you have to ask, how does a manipulator, this emotional predator, actually pick their target? It's really not random. Not at all. They have this finely tuned radar, and they are scanning for some very, very specific signals. Our first move? Understand what those signals are so we can learn how to turn them off for good. So here's our game plan for today. First, we'll decode their radar. Then we're going to expose the little tests they use to lock onto a target. After that, we'll dismantle the psychological trap itself, piece by piece. Then we'll lay out the escape plan. And finally, we'll talk about forging your armor to make sure you're never a target again. Okay, first up, the predator's radar. It's so important to remember this. Manipulators are not just choosing people at random. They are actively hunting for a very specific kind of fuel. And that fuel, well, it actually has a name: narcissistic supply. This is their absolute core motivation. For them, relationships aren't about connection. No, they're transactions. They're all about securing a steady stream of attention, validation, and control. Every single move they make is about getting this supply. And here's the really cruel irony. The traits that light up their radar are often really beautiful human qualities. They go after people with high empathy because an empath will try to understand and heal their pain instead of holding them accountable. They actively look for people pleasers with fuzzy boundaries because they know these folks are just programmed to avoid saying no. They also zero in on low self-esteem. I mean, it makes sense, right? If you don't believe you're worthy of respect, you're way less likely to demand it. And listen to this. This is a key tactic. They go after highly conscientious and responsible people. And why is that? It's because these are the people who will always look inward, who will take the blame and ask, what did I do wrong, even when the manipulator is 100% at fault. It makes them the perfect scapegoat. And crucially, this isn't just about your personality type. No way. Even people with the strongest boundaries can become targets during a crisis. Think about it. When you're going through a divorce, a death, a big move, you're naturally more isolated, more vulnerable. A manipulator sees that period of chaos as a golden opportunity to swoop in and play the role of your savior. So once they've spotted a potential target, they don't just dive right in. The next thing they do is run a series of very subtle tests. They need to confirm that you're a good source of that supply before they really escalate their behavior. Now, these tests, they are subtle, but they are so effective. It might start with a little boundary push, a small joke at your expense, or maybe they're just always a little late. They're just watching. They want to see if you'll object. Then comes the love bombing, that fire hose of affection and attention that's designed to make you dependent on them, fast. And finally, they'll use the pity play, a tragic sob story about their crazy ex or their tough childhood, all designed to see if you'll jump in and try to save them. Now, if you pass their tests by being accommodating and empathetic, well, the trap is set. So now let's pull back the curtain and look at the actual psychological tools they use to spring that trap and keep you locked inside. Okay, the most infamous tool in the playbook: gaslighting. It's this covert, sneaky tactic with just one goal: to make you question your own sanity. By constantly denying things they said, things they did, they systematically chip away at your trust in your own perception until you become completely dependent on their twisted version of reality. Then you've got intermittent reinforcement. This is the exact same psychological principle that gets people addicted to slot machines. The manipulator mixes periods of cruelty with these unpredictable, random moments of affection. This creates a powerful, addictive chemical bond in your brain, a trauma bond that keeps you desperately hoping, just waiting for that next payout of kindness. And the final lock on the cage? Isolation. They will methodically, slowly sever you from your support system. They'll convince you your friends are a bad influence, or your family just doesn't get it. By cutting you off, they make themselves the absolute center of your universe, the only voice you think you can trust. But here's the good news. No trap is inescapable. And now we get to the most important part of this whole thing, the actionable, step-by-step strategy for breaking free. This, right here, is where you take your power back. The escape always begins in your mind. First step, you have to break the illusion. You have to accept that the charming person you first met was a mask. It wasn't real. Second, stop explaining yourself. Stop reacting. Your anger, your tears, your frustration, that's their fuel. You have to cut off the supply. And third, if you can't leave right away, you go gray rock. You become as boring and unresponsive as a plain gray rock. They thrive on drama, you have to starve them of it.
A huge part of this is to stop what's called the jade cycle. That means when you set a boundary, you do not justify, you do not argue, you do not defend, and you do not explain. Every single time you try to explain why you're putting up a wall, you're just handing them a sledgehammer and a map of the weak spots. You have to stop handing them ammunition.
And this is probably the most powerful tool in your entire arsenal. I want you to burn this into your memory. No is a complete sentence. You do not owe anyone an explanation for protecting your own peace. Okay, now for the practical steps. Step 4, secretly, and I mean secretly, start rebuilding your support network. Step 5, plan your exit down to the last detail. Get your important documents, sort out your finances, find a safe place to go. And please, remember this. This is an evacuation, not a negotiation. You do not announce that you're leaving. And once you're out, step 6 is the most critical of all. You go completely no contact, block them on every single platform. This is absolutely non-negotiable for your healing. Now, be prepared for something called an extinction burst. When a manipulator realizes they've truly lost control, their behavior is going to escalate dramatically. Expect endless calls, smear campaigns on social media, maybe even them showing up at your work. You have to promise me, do not engage. Any response, even an angry one, is a signal to them that the button still works. Don't let it. You know, escaping is the first battle, but winning the war, that happens in the healing process. So let's move to our final section, forging the armor that's going to protect you for life. Healing, it really starts with radical self-forgiveness. Let me say that again. You were not stupid. You were targeted. You were exploited. From there, you can start to reclaim your own reality, maybe through journaling or just reconnecting with who you were before all this. And this is so important. You have to consciously establish a new baseline for what a healthy relationship actually feels like. See, your nervous system has been wired for chaos. You literally have to retrain it to recognize peace. Healthy connections aren't a roller coaster of anxiety and intensity. They feel respectful. They feel calm. And they develop slowly. Peace might actually feel kind of boring at first, but trust me, peace is the goal. And you know, here's the most beautiful part of this whole process. You don't have to kill the best parts of yourself to stay safe. Your empathy, it has always been a superpower. It just needs the protection of strong, self-respecting boundaries. You can be a deeply kind person who also fiercely refuses to tolerate abuse. The two are not mutually exclusive. So, when it comes right down to it, understanding the predator's playbook isn't about being scared. It's about valuing yourself enough to make your peace absolutely non-negotiable. So the only question left to ask yourself is, what armor will you build to protect it?
Please like and subscribe.